everybody, once again for an episode of Pitch Jam Talks. I am humbled and honored to be bringing you quite the guest, former managing editor from Joystiq and current managing editor at GamesRadar, queen nerd, Batman of editors, and possible deer whisperer if you look at her Twitter activity recently, Susan Arendt. Susan, how are you?
I like deer whisperer. I like that. That's good.
So how is you're in London currently, and I believe it's been kind of like for GamesRadar, kind of like all staff meetings, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Actually, I was in Bath last week. All of last week were for strategy meetings. As anybody who's been checking out the site has hopefully noticed, we're changing the direction of the site a little bit. We're changing the direction of the content a bit, and so this was to discuss that and our future plans. And we have some really, really cool stuff going on for the site. So I'm really, really jazzed about it. So that was that. That was all last week, and then over the long weekend, I decided to come down to London just for funsies.
Oh, just for funsies. That's the best part of a work vacation.
Exactly. I'm here. Why not just run down to London? Because I'm already in the country.
Awesome. Well, if you're able to talk about it, that's actually probably one of the most valuable things a freelancer, an up-and-coming at least freelancer, can kind of do is keep track of what each publication is really geared towards for their audience. So are you able to talk about anything as far as like some of the changes that are coming to GamesRadar or the way you guys are approaching content from freelancers?
Sure. I can speak in pretty general terms. It's no big secret that for a very long time, GamesRadar was the list place. You go there for lists, and they were funny, and there were some really, really interesting and nicely done stuff there. But we're expanding on that now, and we still do them because they're fun, and they can be a really accessible way for folks to get some insightful ideas about games and game design and the gaming community. So it's not like we've stopped accepting pitches for lists altogether, but we're definitely moving away from the goofier, best butts in video games or, that kind of stuff. And more just long form features. That's definitely been a direction that we've been moving in. For any site, though, what I recommend people do, for any freelancer, just read the darn thing. Like, look at it for over a week, a 2-week period. See the kinds of things they cover. I wouldn't pick a week like, Gamescom or E3, because that's not going to teach you anything. But just get an idea of their voice. How do they talk about things? What kinds of things do they talk about? What kind of formats do they use? And just get a sense of who they are, their personality, and then pitch to them. When I was at Joystiq, I used to get pitches for lists all the time, and we flat out never did them. So I'd be like, hey, this idea is good. I'd read it if it ran somewhere else, but we don't do lists. So just make sure you take some time to do a little bit of research. It'll just save you time.
I think that is really important to know. Is especially with Pitch Jam, we get pitches that it's kind of a weird scenario where you're pitching a kind of a faceless entity that doesn't. You can't look at Good Games Writing and be like, okay, this is clearly the kind of content that they want, because we promote whatever we feel like. But when we're getting a lot of esports pieces this year, and I tell a lot of these participants, make sure, unless it's like a very dedicated esports kind of publication, maybe like Red Bull or something like that, make sure that you're giving the proper context to like all these players and all these tournaments that you're kind of just throwing their name out there, because while I'm sure that means plenty to you, and I know plenty of esports writers who might be like, awesome, this really speaks to me. To me, if I were an editor, and once upon a time I just will not bite on that unless I know why it matters to my audience.
Yeah, exactly. I think esports is super cool. Like I love watching League of Legends, but it's one of those genres. It's one of those areas of gaming. The people who are into it are into it. And so if you're going to, you basically have to go one of two ways with the pitch. You either have to go super, super crunchy, and it's for the audience that already knows exactly what you're talking about, and that's where you pitch it to, like a Red Bull, like you were saying. Or you have to make it accessible so that someone who knows Zippo will understand what you're saying and will care. you have to be able to take that story and make it something that someone who will never ever play Dota will care about.
Yeah, it's that old adage of writing sports for non-sports fans. And the fact that esports has just exploded in popularity in the last decade only speaks to the truth of that statement. So, given that you've been doing this for a considerable amount of time, you're very well looked up to by numerous younger writers and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious, through your experiences with now GamesRadar, and then Joystiq, and then any other publication that you've been involved with, what are some of the most consistent problems or kind of trends or issues that you see come up in pitches from young writers who maybe have never interacted with you before?
Sure. The first and biggest issue is folks who don't treat it like a job interview, which is exactly what it is. You are applying for a job. Now, if you were going to a physical job interview, you wouldn't walk in like cargo shorts and flip-flops chewing gum. But that's metaphorically what a lot of writers do when they send in a pitch. They're kind of half-assing it, It's like, hey, you're wanting me to pay you for your expertise, and you're acting like you're not taking this seriously. Like, that's not cool. Now, once we have a working relationship, once I know you and I know what you're capable of, then it's an entirely different situation. But if that's our first or second interaction, you should still be treating it like a job interview. The other big thing is it's what I call the kind of article you'd see on a forum. Because there's a difference. There's stuff that you will go on to like a NeoGAF or, your favorite gaming sites forums, and you will have these conversations, what's better, PS4 versus, Xbox One, or what does Nintendo have to do to succeed? Those kinds of conversations. And they're really, really fun to have amongst your community. They're super fun. We all have them, like we have them over beers, it's like that. Nobody wants to read that article. They want to contribute to that conversation, but nobody wants to read that article. You know what I mean? Like, it's those same go-to topics that we just go over and over and over again. If you're pitching me an article, if you want me to pay you, bring me something fresh. Bring me a new perspective. Give me something I've never thought of. Give me something the reader has certainly never thought about. Some kind of fresh approach or perspective that only you can provide.
That actually ties in very well to, I think, one of the most consistent pieces of advice that Pitch Jam panelists are giving out to the participants is, don't tell me about a topic necessarily. Find me an angle on a topic. And I don't know if many young writers kind of understand the difference for that. So maybe can you dive a little more into what topic versus angle kind of means to you as an editor?
Sure, of course. A topic is the Wii U is failing, right? And you can send your angry letters to me later. Let's be honest, the Wii U is not selling that well. Okay, that's a very broad category. Now give me an angle on that. An angle would be, okay, the Wii U isn't selling well, which will force Nintendo to revisit its known successes, like it's gonna double down on Zelda, or it's going to give us the Metroid we've been waiting for because they need to recoup their losses, or something. That's actually a horrible angle on that, because I don't believe any of that. But the point is, instead of just going like, I want to write about retro games. That's great. First of all, please stop pitching articles about retro games because you liked them when you were a kid. We get it. Everybody is really super attached to the games they played as a kid. Stop it. Unless you can give me some reason why someone who isn't you should care about this, just stop. Just don't do it. It's just an approach, like music in games. Game music. Instead, that's a topic. An angle is using game music as therapy. That's an angle on that topic.
So for the people making pitches to Pitch Jam who might have a more kind of fleshed out idea, or at least they've kind of got like something interesting. Like we've gotten some really interesting ones, kind of about like a I think it was like an old 1990s kind of PC series about pets that like disappeared off the map and like but brought together a community of female programmers and stuff like that. But I think the issue that even people who have given a very professional level of thought to their topic struggle with is how do I turn this abstract idea into something tangible and really convincing within 200, maybe 250, 300 words in a pitch. What do you think about that?
Well, a pitch needs to achieve two things, right? It needs to concisely communicate the idea that your article will convey. And it needs to prove to me that you can do that you can successfully convey that with your wordsmithing ability. So if you can't summarize your idea clearly, then you haven't formed the idea. You don't even know what the idea is yet. So you should be able to, the way, there's one thing to consider is what thought do you want the reader to walk away from your article with? What should they be thinking about? What should they be feeling? What one thought, when they are done, they're at the bottom of the page, should be in their head? Okay? If you cannot identify that, you don't have a fully formed pitch yet.
I think it kind of all comes back to one of the key words I've learned in my time as a freelancer is shareability. Editors want content that can be talked about, can be spread on social media, can spur conversations that draws in more readers, right?
Absolutely. But that's even kind of a different aspect of it. I mean, shareable articles are great. Like now we're getting into the business part of it, which is you want to be able to, increase your readership and have people pass it around. And because if people are talking about your article, not only does that mean it's good and interesting, it also means that they're reading your site, and that's what everybody wants. But it's not even just the shareable nature of it. You need to be able to focus your thoughts, to have a through line through your piece. Like, I want to talk about Mario Maker and how, kids don't get, art programs are being removed from schools left and right. So a game like Mario Maker could perhaps teach basic art concepts in place of that, right? Okay, cool. So what? Well, what's your through line? What do you want people to walk away from? That there are different ways to teach art, for example. Games can be this new conduit to traditional teaching techniques, stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. You should be able to have a singular thought that when you are crafting this article, that is the thought that everything in your article is supporting one way or the other.
So I previously spoke with freelancer Dan Starkey, and we talked about his most recent article from Boing Boing, just kind of this op-ed about piracy and how it kind of he's not necessarily advocating it, but he's elaborating on it from his poverty-stricken perspective as a child and stuff like that. And one of the most impactful things, and this interview will be up for anybody who is listening by the time this one is up. So one of the most interesting things I think he said was you'll be able to write better op-eds and pitch them if you live life and you have experiences to kind of center around a topic or an angle, regarding games. So I'm kind of curious, as far as op-eds or features that might have a personal lead-in or an angle to them on a topic. What can writers kind of do to outside of just knowing how to write a pitch to kind of diversify or strengthen their repertoire of topics that they can kind of tackle and thus impress an editor? If that makes any sense.
What can they do to expand their experience? Is that the question?
His major quote being, go live life, and I'm kind of curious, like anything outside of games journalism or just writing, learning the format of a pitch that's been proven most successful. What else can a young freelancer kind of do to make them a personality or a force to kind of be reckoned with, much like Starkey, is proving to be?
Well, that's a complicated question, because living life is a big part of it. There's more to life than games. Games are awesome, obviously. Games are a huge part of my life, but they are not my life. You know what I mean? Um, your life informs how you perceive them, and they in turn can impact you based on your experiences. Uh, Read a lot, read things that don't have anything to do with games, read stuff that has nothing to do with geek culture at all. Watch the news, go to a museum, like experience other things away from our culture. If history nerds, for example, like if you're super, super into history, you're going to have a very different interest in like something like Assassin's Creed. And that's going to inform the way you perceive that. It's a completely different aspect of it. So it's the thing about being a force to be reckoned with. I'm just really hesitant to advocate that somebody try to be that. You just gotta,
you can't create yourself as.
yeah, exactly. You just gotta do good work. Do work you believe in, and recognize that getting good takes time. If you come out like, blam, I'm gonna be amazing, and I'm gonna be it, but you're gonna fail because you're gonna be bad. That's not your fault, because everybody's bad when they start.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be bad and obnoxious,
I think that's one of the things that spoke to me. Jim Sterling did a video interview on the Kind of Funny Games channel recently, and as a relatively young freelancer myself, it spoke to me saying there is no way to create or develop a personality kind of like his that draws an audience. It's just something you do for years, poorly until it works in a way that's viable for you. And I think that it's true across all mediums. It's true across all kinds of styles of games journalism or freelancing. It's just keep doing it. You will bungle up every once in a while, but that's okay because you can work forward from those mistakes. You can learn from them.
Yeah, here's the comparison I always use is comedians. Like if you see a comedian that you really enjoy, odds are they have been working on that for at least 5 years. Like the first couple of years they went out and tried to make people laugh, they sucked at it. Because you have to learn things like how to read a room, timing, which jokes to use for which audience. And they'll write 10 jokes and only use one of them. Because when you are creating for a living, some of your stuff's going to suck. That's not a reflection on you. That is just a fact of the art of the act of creation. Some of it ain't going to work. And it takes time and experience to balance those scales so that more of your stuff works than doesn't. And that is true for everyone. There is no shame in that. That is not people being mean to you. That is just how it works. So it's cool to find your voice, take your time, experiment, try different kinds of writing and styles. Maybe you're better at reviews than you are features. Maybe you're better at news or video scripts. There are all different kinds of writing, and they are all different skill sets. So really take the time to invest in yourself and figure out where your skill set lies.
Awesome. So we've got a very small handful of questions from the Twitter post I put up. Oh, so I believe these two people are probably people you know because I think you follow them there. Mr. Conrad Zimmerman asks.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Zimmerman asks, describe the worst pitch she's ever been sent.
Oh, my gosh.
If you feel like reliving a traumatic experience.
The thing is, there's such a robust variety of really awful pitches that I've received. It's really hard to nail down just one. There was one, and bless his heart, he was dead serious. I read this pitch and honestly could not figure out if I was being trolled or not. But over time and communicating with this gentleman, I believe he was legit serious. And it was just this 1,000-word rambling mess about how girls in Japan like RPGs because they use cell phones, and it I honestly can't even relate it to you because it went so many different places, some of which were flat out inaccurate and some just made no sense. It was, oh wow. I've gotten pitches that describe sex acts, like you're writing about video games. Why are we talking about what goes on in your pants? I don't understand. Um, yeah, yeah.
I like that, and I think that one of the things that maybe young writers don't necessarily realize is if you can't sell a story to maybe to someone who knows jack all about the topic that you're trying to espouse, maybe it's not even worth a story worth pursuing because if it can't apply to a base audience, why a niche audience? I've given story drafts to my 60-year-old father plenty of times before, just to see like tell me where this sucks for you.
One thing I with regard to bad pitches, there's a difference between a pitch that doesn't get accepted and a bad pitch, right? Like there's all sorts of reasons why a pitch might not get accepted, and it being lousy is certainly one, but it's only one. The person, it might just be not a good fit for whoever you're sending it to. They might be out of budget. They might be working on that idea in house right now. I definitely want young writers to understand, like, they're going to get rejected a lot. It's of course you feel like, oh my God, I'm terrible. This is everybody's saying no because I suck. You really need to understand that there are lots and lots of reasons why that might be happening. That said, one really important thing to keep in mind is that until you know your editor, you don't know them. You don't know their sense of humor. You don't know their politics. You don't know their sexual preference. You don't know their personal history. You know Zippo. So making assumptions that, they're liberal, or they aren't a person of faith, or they're straight, or whatever, you really, really risk coming off like a jerk. So just be very mindful when you are crafting your letter that you're not making assumptions about what they do and do not like.
Or even treating yourself kind of like you're doing the editor a favor, and
Oh
in
God, don't do that. Oh my God. Oh my God, don't do that.
hey, would you like this thing? I'm kind of feeling like maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. Just tell me if you're interested. Whatever.
Oh God, like act like a professional, okay? Like I get it, because you don't. It's a very vulnerable thing, right? To put yourself out there and say, please, do you like this? I get that, and so some people overcompensate, and they're like, oh no, I know I'm awesome, and I'm going to come off confident, and that'll help. No, you look like a jerk. Don't. You look like an unprofessional jerk. Like this is a business transaction, okay? Act like a professional, you'll be treated like a professional. Give respect, you'll get respect.
There's confidence in professionalism, in that quiet, reserved, unstately kind, or stately, I guess it might be the better word. Professionalism that says, "I'm confident in this, but I don't need to beat you over the head with it."
Right, exactly. I am confident in this idea. However, I recognize that you may not want it.
Yeah, and no harm, no foul, if so.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. It's not about the person. It's about the work. It's about the idea. It's about that article. So oh God, please don't be like, oh, well, your loss. Don't do that. Don't ever do that.
So, last question from the Twitter peanut gallery here. From Ken Gagne, and I think you know him too.
I know him quite well.
With so much work being done remotely, how important / prevalent is travel and face-to-face interactions for interviews or research? And I like this question because some of my most beneficial time has been one, attending GDC last March, and then planning for like local, possibly indie festivals or events where local creators come around. It's just an awesome networking opportunity. So what do you think about that?
If you're talking about like interview subjects, like interviewing devs and stuff, it's not necessary. by any stretch of the imagination. But it can be handy just because devs can be notoriously difficult to nail down, especially if they're working on a AAA title. So like if they're physically in the room with you, they have to talk to you. They might not answer you, but it's not like, oh yeah, I need to move this interview because we're busy with something else. It's not at all necessary. If it is at all possible to take advantage, like you say, of a GDC or a PAX or any indie jam or anything like that, try to, because just having them physically in the same space just makes it a lot easier. You can interview them and just bank it. And you just have that for future reference, to generate ideas off of. Even if you don't use that interview per se, like if you don't sell that interview with that particular designer, that can inform other work that you do. But it's not necessary, especially when you're just starting out. You don't need to be shelling out a whole lot of money to be seeing these people face to face.
Yeah, there's definitely not quite as much of a financial hurdle as there might have used to be. Simply for the fact that I know one of my friends who writes for Red Bull. He does interviews with international players who don't even live in the same country, and it's not as hard as it seems to kind of organize something like that. It's just you do have to be as professional about it from one person to the next.
Right. And you have to be respectful of people's time, right? Like, it absolutely, you can interview people from other countries, but you just have to be mindful of things like time zones. Are you taking time away from when they would be spending it with their family because it's their evening or weekend or what have you? And you have to be able to factor in, like, it might take them a few days to get back to you if you're doing an email type interview, stuff like that. So just plan appropriately.
And yeah, and especially if you're considering going to an event like GC or PAX or whatever, and you're at the same time trying to pitch content to an editor, realize that they may be at the same exact event as you, because their inbox is choking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. There was a question I saw go, or discussion going up for the Pitch Tam hashtag, yes, for about freelancers. How soon after you send a pitch to the editor do you remind them that, oh God, don't, please, dear, no?
See, I thought it was very interesting that you said, I think you said like 2 weeks, right? So, because every single feedback I've gotten from fellow editors or freelancers has said 1 week, maybe 1.5, 2 if it's like a ridiculous kind of time where a lot of stuff is going on, and I was really kind of amused and interested to hear like why 2 weeks was kind of standard for you.
Oh, dude, I'm busy,
I know.
man. I've got a lot going on. And if I haven't, now I make a point, I reply to every single pitch I get because I do not like to leave freelancers hanging because I've been there and it sucks. I will get to you when I can. Now, I recognize that that's not true for all editors because, frankly, their inboxes are too full and they are not going to get back to everybody. The thing that really sucks, and I know it sucks, but it's true, editors don't owe you an answer. And I know that sucks. It's really frustrating because you just get left hanging. You're like, do they hate it? Did they not get it? I don't know. And it's awful. And I completely understand. But they don't owe you an answer. And you're kind of being a pain if you're like, hey, did you get it? I don't know if you got my email, but I sent you one. Yeah, I know. It's in my inbox with the 150 other emails from other freelancers who want my attention in that given moment. You know?
So maybe jumping off of that then, and then this could probably be the last question before we let you go, because you've given us plenty already. Um, if you're a freelancer and you're kind of trying to test the waters on an angle that's timely, that
Oh, sure. If it's time sensitive, follow up. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
but I'm thinking kind of like if an editor isn't biting quickly enough and it still has an element of time sensitivity to it, what's maybe the most professional way to say what's the most professional process to say, thank you for your time. I've waited X amount of weeks or whatever. I will be bringing this to other publications without, sounding like an ass.
Oh, well, if it's something particularly timely, that that it needs to be turned around in a few days, then I encourage freelancers just to say straight up, like, hey, I sent this to you. If I do not hear anything either way from you by X, whether that's the end of the week, the end of the day, whatever, I am going to shop this around to other outlets. That's it. I mean, that's totally fair. That's completely reasonable. If you're not getting, you should not have to, in that situation, it is not fair to ask you to just be at the beck and call of whoever you sent it to first. This is a time sensitive thing. Shop it to as many places as possible. And there's nothing wrong with saying, like, hey, I got bills to pay. Say yes or no, or I'm moving on.
So any last remarks for some of the participants for Pitch Jam, maybe going forward? That we've already gotten some kind of feedback from our feedback writers saying, thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to look at your words very, very carefully. And for some of the responses, I kind of imagine them like polishing a pump action rifle, as they say. I will take your words into very careful consideration. But any last words for maybe some of those participants who ideally are growing quite a bit from this experience?
Sure. First of all, you're all awesome for wanting to create, to create and put that out there. It's a very difficult thing to do, and it's a very vulnerable thing to do. And anybody who is willing to do that is just admirable to me. I think the world of you for wanting to do that. The first and most valuable thing you can learn, and it's also one of the hardest, is to separate yourself from the work. So that when you get rejected, or when you get edits, or when you get people saying, whoa, that sucks, it's not you. They're not saying you suck. They're not saying, well, some of those people might, but, F them. You as a creator will have hits and misses. And it's always going to feel very personal whenever you get criticized. Even when you know the criticism is right, even when you go, yeah, they're right, that intro does really drag, you're right about that, it always hurts a little bit because it is this thing that you put out there. Really start armoring yourself against feeling like this is someone saying something to you about you. The work is a product of you, but it is a thing by itself. And if it's bad, or if it's broken, or if it needs work, it doesn't mean you suck. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means it didn't go so great this time. And maybe it can be fixed, and maybe it can't. But failure is there's this really, folks are so afraid to fail. They're so afraid to admit they have failed. That's how you learn. If you're not failing, you're not risking anything. You're not taking any chances. You're just doing the same thing you did yesterday because you know it works. And that's boring. So no, failure doesn't feel good. It's not like, woohoo, yeah, I totally blew that. Yeah, like nobody's doing that. But that's how you learn, and that's how you grow, and that's how you become better, is trying things, and maybe you didn't get it right this time, so you do it a little different next time. So really just the faster you can internalize that knowledge, the more successful you will be.
Wise words of wisdom from Susan Arendt, everybody. Love it. All right. Well, that has been it for this very special episode of Pitch Jam Talks. Susan, where can people find you on the social medias?
You can find me on Twitter at Susan Arendt. It's not the most creative name in the world, but it's the one I've got. And you can find me at GamesRadar Plus, obviously, GamesRadar.com, and on Radio Radar Plus every Friday.
Awesome. And, of course, you guys can follow Good Games Writing on Twitter at GoodWritingVG, or just go to GoodGamesWriting.com. Check out the writers and games journalists that we feature a couple times every week. And big announcement for anyone curious as well. We have recently received funds to kind of solicit for some of those same pitches that we received during Pitch Jam. in case any of those writers are interested in kind of following through on those stories and having a place for them to be published. So this might be a really good chance to work with some professional editors and get some even better feedback this go around. So, and of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at Joseph Knoop, JOSEPHKNOOP. Thanks so much. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.